Today, we're going to dive into one of the most powerful books I've ever read, psychiatrist Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And look, this is so much more than just a book. It's a raw testament to the human spirit. And it was written from inside a Nazi concentration camp. It's a tough journey, for sure, but it reveals an incredible truth about our ability to find purpose, even when things seem absolutely hopeless.
So get this, Frankl, as a psychiatrist, would often start therapy with this really startling question. Now, it wasn't just for shock value. He was trying to get right to the heart of what makes a person tick. He knew that in their answer, because of my kids, or I have this project to finish, or I cherish this memory, that's where you find the threads of meaning that keep a person alive. This question was really the key to his entire life's work.
And Frankl's ideas weren't cooked up in some quiet, comfortable office. Nope. They were forged in fire, in the most brutal conditions you can possibly imagine. He was a prisoner in the Nazi camps, and he lost almost everyone: his father, his mother, his brother, and his wife. The only one left was his sister.
And here's what's just incredible. Even in the middle of all that horror, Frankl never stopped being a psychiatrist. I mean, yeah, he was a prisoner, but he was also an observer, studying himself, studying everyone around him. He was trying to answer this one huge question. How in the world does a human being survive when they've been stripped of everything, down to their bare, naked existence? So let's just try to imagine that descent. Picture being crammed into a train car for days on end, and then you arrive at a place whose very name is a symbol for absolute horror: Auschwitz. The doors are thrown open, and you're shoved into two lines, men on one side, women on the other, shuffling past a single SS officer. That officer was playing what Frankl called the finger game. With just a casual flick of his finger, he'd point left, or he'd point right. Left meant you were sick or couldn't work. Right meant you were headed for the labor camp. For most of the people on Frankl's train, about 90% of them, being sent to the left meant you were walking straight into a gas chamber. Just like that. In all that chaos, Frankl desperately tried to save a manuscript, his entire life's work. He's begging another prisoner, trying to explain how important it is, and the guy just screams one word at him that pretty much summed up the whole place: shit. In that single moment, Frankl got it. His old life, his past, it was gone. He had to let it all go, just to have a chance of surviving the next few minutes. Frankl noticed that every single prisoner went through 3 clear psychological stages. The first was shock, right when they got there. And this shock often came with this really strange kind of hope he called the delusion of reprieve, this desperate, illogical belief that, hey, maybe things won't be so bad after all. Well, that delusion didn't last long, and it led to the second phase: apathy. Pretty quickly, the prisoners just became numb to the horrors they saw every single day. And Frankl realized this wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a survival tool. It was a necessary defense mechanism. Because if you actually felt the full emotional impact of everything happening around you every hour of every day, you'd go insane. Apathy was a protective shell. But here's the twist. Even inside that shell of apathy, Frankl discovered something truly amazing. As the prisoners' outer world just shrank to nothing, their inner world, their spiritual world, could actually get bigger. It was possible to escape the awful reality around them by retreating into this rich inner life. This whole idea really hit him one day during a brutal, freezing march to a worksite. He was exhausted, in pain, and he just started to think about his wife. He pictured her face, he heard her voice, and he felt her presence so intensely that it was brighter than the actual sunrise. And that's when he realized love is the ultimate goal. It's a force so powerful it goes beyond physical presence, beyond suffering, even beyond death itself. And it was these small, simple things that kept a person's spirit alive. Holding on to a mental image of someone you loved, a quiet prayer, sharing a dark joke with a friend, or even just catching a 2-second glimpse of a beautiful sunset over the Bavarian mountains. These became little anchors in an ocean of suffering. And all of this brings us to the absolute core of Frankl's philosophy. He would see men walking through the barracks, comforting other prisoners, giving away their very last piece of bread. And in them, he saw the proof that even when you have literally nothing left, you still have something. And that something is the ultimate freedom. It's a freedom that can't be taken away by guards or barbed wire or starvation. It's the one thing that is truly 100% yours, no matter what. And here it is. This is the big one. The last of the human freedoms is the power to choose your attitude. It doesn't matter what's happening to you externally. You, and only you, get to decide what you'll become on the inside, mentally and spiritually. You can choose to find meaning. You can choose to be worthy of your suffering. That power is always yours. So after he was liberated, Frankl took this profound insight and built an entire school of psychotherapy around it. He called it logotherapy. Logos is just a Greek word for meaning, and the whole therapy is based on this one powerful idea. Our main drive in life isn't to get pleasure, but to find meaning. Now, this was a direct challenge to the big guy who came before him, Sigmund Freud. Freud's whole thing was that our primary drive is a will to pleasure. But Frankl, having seen what he'd seen, just couldn't agree. He argued that our deepest, most fundamental drive is a will to meaning. That's what keeps us going when every possible pleasure has been ripped away. So what happens when we can't find meaning? Well, Frankl had a name for that feeling too, the existential vacuum. It's that deep, nagging sense of emptiness and purposelessness. He saw it a lot in what he called Sunday neurosis. You know that feeling? That kind of depression that can wash over you when the busy week is over, the distractions are gone, and you're just left alone with the quiet feeling that your life lacks a real point. Okay, so how do we take these lessons learned in the absolute depths of human suffering, and bring them into our own lives? Because Frankl's insights aren't just about extreme situations, they're about being human, period. Frankl loved to quote the philosopher Nietzsche, who said, "He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how." In the camps, this wasn't a theory. He saw it play out every single day. The people who had a purpose, a child they had to see again, a book they needed to write, they had a much, much better chance of surviving. Their why gave them the strength to endure the horrific how. And Frankl also gives us some advice that's, well, it's pretty counterintuitive. He says, don't chase after success or happiness. The more you make them your direct target, the more likely you are to miss. Instead, he says they are side effects. They happen on their own when you dedicate yourself to a cause that's bigger than you are. Find your why, and happiness will follow. So, Frankl believed we can find meaning in one of three ways. First, through our work, by creating something or doing a deed. Second, through love, by truly connecting with another person or experiencing the world's beauty. And third, and this is the most important one for his story, when we face suffering that we can't escape, we can find meaning in the attitude we choose to take toward it. And that brings us right back around to the big question, doesn't it? The most important lesson from the darkest chapter of human history is that our survival, both physically and spiritually, is directly tied to our sense of purpose. So the ultimate question that Frankl leaves us with, the one we all have to answer for ourselves, is this: what is your why?